Good morning, sunshine. Yesterday I did a video about coping. I'm trying to teach some emotional intelligence here because we're in a major war and it's about to get a whole lot worse. I'm not saying that to scare you. You already know that where this is heading is not a good place. But what can you do about it? I said yesterday. Acceptance, because this is Satan's world. They've been ruling for a long time, ever since the Torah. The Torah is the book of Satan. The Garden of Eden is the garden for Satan. It's in the imagination. You know, when you go to church and the pastor or priest or rabbi or whatever fills your head with stories, it takes your imagination to that place. And then you begin to believe it. And the same books and same scriptures have been read to the masses like clockwork for 2,600 years. And then we've morphed into the Holy Bible and then the Quran. And guess what's common about all three books and religions? They all live in the Garden of Eden. They all have the God of Moses to count on. So today I'm going to tell you about the Freemasons. Some of you already are well aware of the Freemasons, but many aren't. A lot of people want to join because they've got good marketing and good propaganda. They're on TV everywhere as sort of like a family. Actually, there's a movie on Netflix, I think it's called The Family, and it really will give you an idea of how the recruitment works for gathering young men, young students, making them feel like they can be part of something very special. So they plant seeds in young minds and tell them stories. And they, of course, you know, if you start believing in it, if it makes sense to them, then they're going to work for that program. Many of the young men do not realize that at the very top of the spectrum of the family, they worship Satan. They literally drink the blood of children. They literally do. They harvest organs. At the top, they are not human. I can't imagine how. But these bro clubs are everywhere now. And even in the alternative media. If you don't want to watch mainstream, then you go to maybe Rumble or BitChute or something. But you will see these guys everywhere. And they seem to know all the news. They never quote their sources and where they're getting their news. But they know the news, and it's all terrifying. And so I watch them. I watch them because I want to know. Not because I believe in them or because I think they know things beyond what I know, but because it's keep informed. Find out what the enemy's doing. Find out what the boys are doing. And they're always doing it at the same time. They're always talking about the same subjects at the same time. If it's not talking about a virus, it's talking about a jab. If it's not talking about a jab, it's talking about nuclear weapons. If it's not talking about nuclear weapons, it's talking about the dangers of Russia and China. It just goes on and on and on. But you know what we're not talking about? We're never talking about Israel. Ever. I wonder why. Israel was created in 1948. After the Second World War, all of the countries got together and decided to make a state for the Jewish population. But they're not Jews over there for the most part. They are white Zionists. They are American. They're European. prime ministers are European, a guy from Poland. So they're not representing regular people in the area, in the region. They're not representing the Arabs at all, are they? But they've created so much chaos in America using the media and Hollywood, including social media, that people do not know the difference between fantasy and reality anymore. Let's just take a look at a couple of these guys. This one's the worst. His name's Pastor or Stan the man, and he talks about his wife Leslie, who has these dreams and visions, and man, they're so accurate and they're so political too. They seem to know exactly what's going on in the dreams. Only prophecies and dreams don't work like that. There's no direct telephone call to Leslie, who, by the way, as this man speaks, the wife he refers to is a man. So he's married to a man, he's a pastor, and he's talking about what's going to come. And I just want to show you a little bit of his message. He's all for Israel. He's very angry that Biden has gone to Israel. He thinks he's going to split Israel. He's really all about Israel.
So that they can come over to their advertisers. It's called clickbait, and they make money. So I had to read several of them to get the whole story. Here's another one. Israeli coalition to dissolve parliament forces fifth election in 4 years. The ideology, now here's the important part. The ideologically divided 8-party alliance. Okay, why is it ideologically divided? Well, it's kind of like in America, the Democrats and Republicans. If the Democrats would do what the Republicans want, then we could move forward on a lot of good things. Or if the Republicans would do what the Democrat wants, then America wouldn't last long, in my opinion. So here, what is going on is we have some evil people in high places in Israel, just like we have evil people in high places in America. I believe a lot of those, just like in America, are owned, controlled, bribed, or threatened. If it's not bribery, it's blackmailed, but they're controlled. It's called controlled opposition, or many of them just flatten in their control. And the same thing is going on in Israel. Now, I can't prove that. I can't even prove that in America. But as I say that, I think you know I'm telling the truth, and I'm right. The ideologically divided 8-party alliance was forged 1 year ago, and here's another problem, includes religious nationalists like Bennett, Lapid's centrist, Yeshed Atid party, left-wingers, and, here's the problem, for the first time in Israeli history, lawmakers from an Arab Islamic party. That's kind of like having people in our government that aren't Christians. That's like having teachers out there teaching our children that aren't Christians. And the same thing has happened in Israel. Let's go on. He says, they also said that if the bill is approved, Lapid will take over as premier of a caretaker government, meaning Lapid, which is kind of like, I don't know the difference. I mean, I'm not that up on Israeli government. But one party that wants to have a two-state solution, or that wants to divide Israel, that thinks that giving the Palestinians a state is the only way to peace, which is exactly what Molon Cabal wants, they are about to be in control when, goes on to say, should that happen, it would be Lapid would be host U.S. President Joe Biden during his scheduled visit to Israel next month. So, here comes Biden, just happens to go over there. I'm sure it wasn't planned at all. Yes, it was planned. He's planning to go over to Israel just as there is a change of government, and the people coming into Israeli government just happen to be for the two-state solution. Now, if you think that's all just happenstance, then I got some coastal property in Kansas for sale for you. I think that there is an unseen hand. You want to call it the deep state, you can call it Khazarian Mafia, you can call it Molot Ball, international bankers, whatever you want to call it. Evil people in high places that are pushing, because I think they know Look, they know the Bible better than we do. Trust me, Lucifer knows the Bible better than any flesh and blood breathing person on the planet. And probably they listen to what the prophets are saying. I know they do. As a matter of fact, I had a dream I meant to tell you. I guess it was Saturday night. And the dream essentially, it scared me. It said that evil people in high places have taken notice of what I'm saying. They listen. They listen to God's prophets. Now, to Christians, they don't. But the evil people, they listen. Because they know when God is speaking. Now, the average Christian, they don't. They don't care.
Oh my God, I gotta.
But Lucifer does. He listens to what God says. Should that
And he's the only mouthpiece for God, of course, like Moses.
happen, all of a sudden, the two-state solution president, Biden, goes to Israel when a two-state solution new Likud party, a Lapid party, comes in, and all of a sudden there's a division of Israel. Now, let's go to the next one. NPR says Israel's prime minister is stepping down, sparking a new round of elections. Okay, we got that. We heard that. They also say an Arab political party is disbanding over disagreement over the future of Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank. Essentially what they're saying, the problem that's going here is the problem that's been stewing over in Israel for several years, and that is some of the Israelis see it. It's like Democrats and Republicans here. Some of the Israelis think the only way you're going to have peace in Israel is to give the Palestinians a state, to split Israel.
To split
The
Israel.
problem is God doesn't like that. We're going to talk about that in a second. He goes on to say the room suddenly went dark. So this guy is talking, and he's saying, we did everything we could to preserve this government, and all of a sudden the light goes out, and the guy behind the microphone actually says how symbolic Lapid said in the microphone. Now, to us American Christians, that doesn't mean anything. But to Jews, that means a lot. Because remember, Jesus said, Jews seek for a sign, but a sign will not be given them except for the sign of Jonah as he was in the earth 3 days.
Oh, God. You know, they make up scriptures as they go along. Israel was not in the Bible. It's a new state. And it was after genocide, you know, by Americans. Okay, let's be real. Let's be real people and be honest. Israel does not belong to the Jews or to the Americans. It belongs to the people that were there originally. It's occupied. And now they're having a bunch of chaos going on, and their leaders are fighting. They think the enemy is Biden or the Democrats. But no, the enemy is really China. Because that, you know, that's who's going to be controlling things. And that's what these people, the Freemasons, are upset about. China is winning. I've said for 5 years that this is a war, if we want to break it down to a nutshell, between China and Israel. And everybody else is just falling under one of their umbrellas. And even the people. You know, it's just like the way they divide us with the political parties. You know, you got your Democrats or you got your Republicans. That's it. There's no concept of other types of governance or evolution to living the way we have been living vicariously through Hollywood. Watching these types of men and watching pornography and watching the wars, or just sitting at home with some popcorn and watching football. We are watching life go away. Without your participation, we're doomed. Because these people, the Freemasons and their followers, and people that don't even identify as Freemasons, but support the Zionist order and support the ruin of countries for the sake of democracy? you're going to find out nothing has made sense for a long time. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because these men are everywhere on social media, giving you ideas and making it sound like it's coming from God. And if you don't believe God, there's something wrong with you. But the Freemason bros don't always show up as pastors. They also show up as rich boys with not a care in the world. Now here's the Bro Club. Here is a Freemason, and he's probably a pretty high up one because he's got a pool. But he professes to work for the people. He's a newscaster or whatever. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Some other things that are going to be pressing on us. It's going to be the summer of discontent. All right, gas prices. Gas prices will probably double from where they are, guys. All right, so it's going to be rough out here. It's going to be rough around the world. Inflation is going to continue to go up. It's like, Mike, do you have anything good to say? Yeah. Well, maybe I do. So they've already doubled since.
Look at him smile.
And they're probably going to double again. All right. So look at where you're at right now, California. I think you got over $6 a gallon. So look at doubling those prices during the summer. So we're not in the. This is the first day of what I have predicted is going to be a super hot summer, summer of discontent, and it will be rising temperatures and rising anger. So lots of stuff like that happening.
They're creating it. Oops. I'm so sorry for my video production. I've got it magnified. Oh my God, am I going to have to throw this away? Sorry, guys. I really need... Oh, there! I really need some... I really need a left brain. I need a man who has a left brain and tolerates the right brain. You know, if we could work together, that would be so cool. I got stuff that you left brains don't have, and you left brains got stuff I don't have, like technical skills. So pardon me, I gave up my left brain and everything I learned here in order to allow my right brain to come all the way up. And my right brain is my garden. It's the garden I'm taking home. It's my imagination. Yeah, we all have an imagination. And these guys in media, Hollywood, is planting seeds in the imagination for you to manifest. And Jesus said, you manifest from your imagination. And so that's why the scriptures, all of them, all of the education, all of the Hollywood, all of the seed planting from others in such a mass scale around the world has created Nazi zombies. You know, they're educated to be this way. They're educated to think the way they think. For the American dream. God bless America. And be all accepting and all loving to all types of people. And Black Lives Matter. Yeah, they keep the people feeling like they're garbage. And only the elite have all the control. And these little bros, lots of them, they're everywhere. They come in pairs, they come in quadruples, and they talk like they know stuff. And they do know stuff. But why are they telling us with such big smiles? These are your spokespeople for Jesus. Do you know Bill Mayer's dad ran a human trafficking ring right in Hollywood, right there in Penthouse, and all of the bunnies and all of the approval of your fathers who were sitting there masturbating to the pictures. Yeah. These men filled the imagination with filth that is unacceptable to the garden of God. It's not going where God goes. God is love. But this is hideous what these people are doing on the media all day. And they're the only ones I see all the time. The Prophecy Club, the guy with the pool, this guy. Let's see some others. Here's another one. He's really good because he's, they come, a lot of them come, they are ex-crackheads, ex-meth heads, ex-drunks, foster care kid, and blah, 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 right? Well, they were raised by the system. They were raised by evil. And they bring a lot of terror, and they always use Jesus and the Holy Spirit. But they're not doing any good. They're just bringing the fear and the anger. They're conjuring up your imagination. That's what they're doing.
And how much of an emergency it is. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something very careful. You know, when Jesus carried the cross through the streets, everybody was stoning him and screaming and yelling at him. Are you actually aware of that? Are you aware that only 11 people believed in him? And they were the ones they hunted down because they were all outlaws, right? They hunted them all down to get him, right? Because they were outlaws. They stood against the system. Everybody stoned Jesus in the streets, and no one believed in him, even after all the miracles that he performed. You see, that's how selfish the whole human population really is. And I'm going to say this how it is. They were selfish, egotistical, self-centered, and competitive. Social engineered, right, to be immoral, godless creatures. More than 55% of the population went psychologically mental. Even the Roman Empire had to shut down and nearly got taken down. That's how crazy people went from social engineering. But you're not really told this story correctly. So it's important you understand why we're in the days of Noah, right? Because the same thing happened in Babylon. The same thing happened in the pharaohs in Egypt when Moses took them across the desert, and they sat there for 3 generations suffering the human condition, psychologically, mental, and completely stripped from any faith system and their sixth sense. You've got to listen to what I have to say to you very carefully. No one believed in Jesus. Noah was known as the biggest conspiracy theorist, and no one believed in him neither. Most of the people that walk with God, no one believed in. They always were very lonely. The righteous given the authority, right, was special mythical events. No one ever believed. They always thought they were crazy. Because you are the normal. You are the psychological creatures. You're the ones that social engineered in the days of Noah, right? So much that you're all selfish, egotistical, self-centered, with competitive behavior. And you don't seem to understand the warnings in the Bible and all the things, right, that you're supposed to know about. When you sit there and put yourself in a pedestal to think you know better, and you only use 9% of your brain, and you can't even think outside that mind that controls every single conclusion you come to with psychological mental behavior, because that's all you think with. And today you think 7 times more than in global history, and you suffer the mental disorders. You suffer the human conditioning. You suffer stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, and it wraps the chains around you. And then you sit there and pretend you're free. You sit there.
So you see, he's telling the truth. He's right. Jesus was not a god, by the way. He was just a man who was Christ conscious. Like somebody like me. I am Christ conscious. And Jesus said anybody can be Christ conscious. It just means you're awake to your spirit, to your soul, and your conscience. You do not turn your conscience over to Moses or that God. You already know. You don't need to be told. You don't go after your neighbor's wife. You don't kill, blah, blah, blah. That is not who we are. Those are seeds planted in our brain for us to think about, imagine, and maybe manifest. So that's the garden that's got to go. And Jesus came, and it wasn't the government that killed him, it was the people. And that's what's going on today too. The people are killing Jesus everywhere. Our children, our little boys. And they'll continue. And you notice that none of these guys, they know the news, but none of them offer any kind of love to you or hope or what you can do. What they're doing is filling your mind with imagination that you don't want to sit in and dwell. You don't want to sit and dwell in these people's heads. Because when it boils down to it, they're just instilling the fear to terrorize you into silence. Because you do nothing in fear. And when people are starting to wake up the enormity of what's happened, we're in a lot of trouble. Because their imaginations, everybody's got a different imagination now. Whatever channel they're watching. And maybe they only watch that one channel their whole lives. And now all of a sudden they turn to channel 3. And there it is. Satan everywhere. And that's what I woke up to. You know, in my own family, and in humanity, because my family does represent humanity. What I'm saying is that Moses divided the sexes with his God. The serpent divided the sexes, and that's where our whole problem is. You can't function as a human being without two brains. And if you don't accept one side of the brain, the right brain is the typically where women reside. They are the creator, the imaginative ones with color and the direct connection to source. And they use all sorts of methods and means, and you may call them witches or whatever. But the men that are lighting candles and drinking blood at church, or at least pretending to, that's where everybody's following. Not the women. Not the maternal side of our world. The mums of the world are gone. You know, they're turning them into omegas. The Bro Club owns the media. And they're not friendly. They're not very maternal. So, let's see if I can find another one. No, I'm sorry, I can't keep going. I'm going to stop the video now. You know, because I don't like looking at images that fill my imagination, because it sticks, you know. And you can imagine what these images and words are doing to our children's minds. You know, some people are afraid of clowns. Do you know why? Probably the child was faced with somebody with a mask when they were an infant. Why are we putting masks on and scaring children? Why are we giving children fables to live by, to believe in Santa Claus instead of believing in the gift of love from mother and father? Why do we only celebrate once a year in the spirit of Jesus? Because everybody follows the spirit of Satan here. And they may as well literally drink the blood of Jesus as they do. But I knew that blood drinking was wrong. I knew that just imagining blood, I don't think people understand the magnitude of the problem. We cannot take an imagination of Satan home. You think it's hidden in your brain or something. You think nobody can see. Your imagination is your creation. What did you create on paradise?